Calypso, and she is best friends with Annie the dog, and these are my god pets. And so Annie and Calypso were the inspiration behind this presentation about what indoor plants are poisonous or toxic to pets. Now, in this presentation, I'm going to focus more on the plants and less on the toxicology and pharmacology. So this is not a toxicology and pharmacology presentation, but more on plant identification. So Annie the dog loves to bound out of the house and start munching on grass. So one of the first questions I have is, will consumption of grass harm my dog? And the answer generally is no, it will not. But it will cause, eating of any plant material will cause an animal to vomit or have gastrointestinal upset for dogs and cats. Now, when you look at the veterinary world, it really is only about 25 to 30% of animals who, when they consume this green leafy material, actually do throw up. Many other dogs just let it go by. The area to be concerned about is if there's any lawn chemicals or garden chemicals recently applied on the lawn. And then you want to think about it if there's any abnormal things with your pet beyond vomiting and gastrointestinal upset, or if this goes on for a longer period of time, a vet is the next call. Now, dogs sometimes get into things other than grass, like our chives or our wild onions and wild garlic. They are a bit toxic to dogs and cats, and you will find that the gastrointestinal irritation can lead to red blood cell damage. So being attentive to watching your pet while he's out in the yard becomes a very important thing to discern whether it's grass or whether it's these outside plants. Now, what I'm going to talk about a little bit is, this is the only toxicology slide, and this is at a very high level, but I want to get across that not all toxic things are at the same level of potency. You can have some major toxicities which cause serious illness or death. And when you think about that, quick action and quick response to the veterinary is going to be a very important thing. So we're looking at berries of the European mistletoe, seeds of the yew, seeds of pear, black locust, prunus, and other trees. If you step down a bit, you also look at the next level down in terms of toxicity, really causes eating, especially bulbs, where they have concentrated the chemistry, causes vomiting or diarrhea. However, being attentive to the animal is really important, because these severe illnesses can occur. Oxalates are a form of chemistry that have needle-like crystals, and these crystals can get into the tissues around the mouth, tongue, throat, and cause swelling and irritation, such to the point that you could actually have breathing difficulties in your animal. And then on the very mildest side of toxicity, you could have a contact dermatitis, which is a skin irritation. Now, frequently, toxicities of minor toxicity, the vomiting and diarrhea, as well as dermatitis, occur together with some plants. So let's go to some of the plants. For this talk, I've researched a number of university veterinary schools, pet poison hotlines, a number of veterinary websites, as well as the ASPCA. They all seem to work together, and they all seem to have a same kind of of recommendations. So I'm going to point to the ASPCA, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and they have both toxic and non-toxic plants listed for cats, dogs, and horses, and that covers indoor and outdoor plants. So if you have questions about plants that I'm not covering, this is a really great resource for future look. The top of virtually all of these veterinary schools and all the pet poison centers say all forms of true lilies. Cats are especially sensitive. Now, Calypso's pal kitten called Calypso's mom. The two moms talked. The kitten had gotten into one of the lilies in her house. And Calypso's mom said, you've got to get that cat to the veterinary because lilies can be very, very toxic to kittens especially, and cats generally. It turns out that by the time the kitten's mom got her to the veterinary, she was in the early stages of renal collapse. So this is a very serious thing that we think about. And that includes all forms of lilies. So all the true lilies that I personally love, all parts of the lily, the flowers, petals, leaves, stems, and bulbs are toxic to dogs and cats. Another member of the lily family that we all love, tulips. And tulips are also concentrate the chemistry in their bulbs and can cause vomiting and diarrhea. As an aside, humans can also get contact dermatitis and an allergic reaction if you handle tulips a lot, like many florists. Hyacinths. Again, these bulbs contain that oxalate raphites, which are these needle-shaped crystals that get embedded in the tissues. Daffodils, jonquils, paperwhites. Again, the bulbs are especially toxic, causing vomiting, diarrhea. And the University of California, Davis School of Veterinary Medicine has some really great information about toxic plants and animals. The aloe plant contains a number of chemicals that cause vomiting, depression, diarrhea, tremors. And if you particularly like the aloe plant, and it's very hard to really control cats, so it's hard to take the plants away from it's easy to take the plants away from a dog, but not so easy to take away plants from a cat. But if you like the look of an aloe, you might look at the similar formed, the little zebra. Doesn't have the same medicinal qualities as the aloe plant, but it is a non-toxic plant that could substitute. The cornstalk plant, the Dracaena generally has chemistries that cause plants to have an irritation and vomiting. And if you like that look, then look for a ponytail that gives you the impression of the leaves going on. These are relatively non-toxic. Everybody likes these kind of Dieffenbachia, and there's lots and lots of kinds of Dieffenbachia, but it has these oxalate crystals that have a sharp needle-like, and so that is particularly injurious to a cat or a dog that wants to eat these leaves. So is philodendron and the split-leaf philodendron. You can tell that some of these are my favorite plants for the indoors. Again, it's that oxalates that are the main actor when you look at cats and dogs. Sago palm. This is a great plant, but the seeds of the sago palm contain this chemical that causes lethargy and vomiting, increased thirst, and liver failure, and there are some incidents of death. So a sago palm is not one that, if you have a pet that is happily curious and likes to have a mouthing behavior, perhaps shifting to one of the other kinds of palms that don't have this same kind of chemistry would be a better think for your yard and for your home. Now we're getting into the holiday season, and we've got a number of plants in the holiday theme that we're going to see popping up. But when you think about the amaryllis, it also has a chemical that is going to cause vomiting and diarrhea, abdominal pain, and tremors. And the poinsettias are going to be of the lower toxicity with this irritant sap from the leaves, stems, and flowers. Now, notice that there is no antidote for this poinsettia poisoning, but generally poinsettias are on the lower side of toxicities if you're looking for a holiday plant. But again, you've got to keep your pets and plants separated. Mistletoe, the berries are toxic, especially for the Viscum album, which is the European mistletoe. Those berries are much more toxic than the American mistletoe, but all the berries are dangerous for cats and dogs. What are some of the things that you might use instead? Well, African violets don't pose a problem to dogs and cats, but no, they are toxic to horses. But I'm not sure that horses and African violets would be in the same neighborhood. Some other relatively non-toxic plants are the spider plant and the cast iron plant. So some of these could be substitutes for some of the other things that we've talked about. So my bottom line is to check out your plant, preferably before your purchase. Again, here I think that there's a number of really great websites, but the ASPCA list is a good starting point that's pretty comprehensive. The other thing is to keep your plant and your pet separated. If you see that you have any kind of strange behaviors in your pet, call your veterinarian. And don't put it off, because if you don't know what they've got into, time could be not on your side. The ASPCA has an animal poison control number, operated 24 hours, and they have more information for either you or your vet if you have a pet in distress. So here are some of the great resources that I found during this research, and this particular article, House and Garden Plants Potentially Poisonous to Pets, is the article that I authored last year, and you can find it on fairfaxgardening.org, and it has lists of indoor plants as well as outdoor plants. So that gets you started on thinking about how you and your pet can have a happy indoor experience and still have plants in your house.